broadcasting to all attendees. Start seeing the people coming in, which is fantastic. Welcome everybody to this wonderful Monday's webinar, Not Just Survive, but the Power to Thrive. And I got two great panelists, and I don't want to take up very much time. So let me just tell you real quickly what we're going to do. You should see at the bottom of your Zoom the chat. And the only thing I'll ask is, always say to all panelists and attendees. So I'll say, hi, everyone. Change this to all panelists and attendees. And the only other thing I want you to note is I get a feeling we'll get a lot of questions. So if you could just try to keep your questions to the Q&A, that'd be fantastic. Without further ado, that's my little administrative side of things. I'm going to turn things over to Yvonne to introduce our panelists.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. And thanks very much, Mike. I'm sitting in for Kelly McCain today. So trying to do the good job she does, but probably won't. So without further ado, I'm delighted today to introduce our guest speaker, Brian Buffini. Brian is the founder and CEO of Buffini & Company. Brian's been a longtime friend to Royal LePage, and many of you out there in our audience today are using his systems, our agents, our brokers. Today, though, we are looking at, excuse me, and the theme for today is Not Just Survive, the Power to Thrive. Looking at ways to navigate your way through this time, managing clients, staying positive, and preparing for your future success. So I think we've got the right team today. And without further ado, I'm going to hand you off to our illustrious leader, Phil Soper. Phil, over to you.
Yvonne, thank you very much. And hello, everybody. Right at the outset, I just want to say our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Nova Scotia this morning. The horrible act of violence that occurred on the weekend, one of the worst in Canadian history, is just mind-boggling in such a peaceful, loving part of the country. So our thoughts are definitely with you. I'd also, at bridging, like to acknowledge that this is week 6 of our house arrest. And I know some of you may be losing your mind, but you've got great senses of humor. And through all my chat last week, I get to talk to so many people during these strange times. I do see that you've got, well, you're making the best of it. And that's really what today is about. It's taking lemons and making lemonade. It's looking for that silver lining, because if there's one thing that if you've been in business for a while, you realize you never let a good crisis go to waste. I had a chat with a group of Chairman's Club people right at the end of week last, and I was amazed at all the ideas that was coming out of the very best of our best in terms of how they're going to take their practice to the next level and how they're using this time to reset, to plan, and to charge forward. One of the things we've seen in past down cycles is the flight to quality, and the fact that the best companies have an opportunity to actually gain a larger share of a smaller pie. And if there's anyone that knows about gaining a larger share of that pie, it's Mr. Brian Buffini himself. Brian, let me start by asking you a question. How is that lovely family of yours, and how are you managing everything in Southern California?
Well, thanks, Phil. And I also want to just send my best to the folks in Nova Scotia. I've always said the best Irish accents I've ever heard in my life and are in Nova Scotia. And when I want to find out when I want to have an experience that reminds me of 30 years ago, Ireland, and Royal LePage has brought me to Nova Scotia on more than one occasion. So anyway, just big send out to everybody there. And just, again, it's unsettling times. So you get unsettled with something even more like that. For us, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Phil, I've talked to 1 million people in the last 5 weeks.
Wow.
It took me 25 years to speak to 3 million people. So I've been working a lot. I've been doing a lot of broadcasts, and I have a couple of cool things to share with some folks today to really help them engage. And we put a kind of a, we only focus on one aspect of life, which is the coaching. So we got that going. The fam is doing great. I mean, I have my kids home from college, so it's an unexpected blessing. So I have a full house again. We go to the grocery store, we get all these dagger looks because Beverly has 2 carts and I have 2 carts, and they think we're hoarders, and they don't know. No, this is just 7 days. But I have kids that they're all athletes. They're all in college. All they do is work out and graze and eat. And we are going through groceries. I'm going to need to double sales next year just to pay the food bill. So we're doing fine, bud. We're doing
that's
fine.
Good. And how about that little brother of yours? Is he using this time to work on his putting, or is he working as hard as you are?
Well, he is, but he does have a putting green in the backyard like I do. So, and the weather's been pretty nice here, so we're very thankful for that. But he's, we're doing we sent our staff home about 4 or 5 days before the announcement was made in California. We've been somewhat prepared for this for a long time, not this, but emergency situations, and so we'd made big investments. So we kept everybody, and everybody's working. We had big cash reserves, and we sent everybody home. And I got to be honest with you, times like this, they don't make you, they reveal you. And I'm more proud, and it's funny, like I'll give you this. I can give you my list of little complaints I had. Oh, geez, we're slow on this. How did we become the DMV, this and stuff. And then in the midst of this, I've seen people operate at such a high level. It's been very impressive. It makes you feel good about what you have and who you have. And so it's been a good thing.
That's good. That's good. Now you've built this amazing company of yours over a number of years, and during those years, you've seen some great times and some lean times. How would you compare the COVID-19 economic crisis, and particularly the impact on the real estate industry, to previous downturns like the financial crisis of 11, 12 years ago?
Yeah, well, look, we were in the coaching business. We first knew the economic crisis was coming a year before it was ever declared an emergency. 2007, we had 400 and some staff. We were laying people off in January of 2007. It wasn't declared a recession until November of 2008. We knew a long time. Now think about that. We didn't come out of that recession as an industry really till 2012.
It's true.
And again, you guys were somewhat protected in Canada to the same degree. You didn't have as many foreclosures, but the States, it was gruesome. I mean, 87% of the dollars of agent dollar disappeared in the real estate industry. Massive amount of agents left the business, and those who were in lost their incomes. It was years and years and years. So this has been more like a car crash. This has been more like a car crash in NASCAR. And the more I started thinking about it, that's where I ultimately came up with some ideas that's flourished into a program that we're just launching that I'm going to make available for free to all of your folks today. And it's called the Rolling Start. And Excellent. This is because I know you wanted to talk about how to thrive.
Exactly.
And so, I'm not the biggest NASCAR guy. I did like Formula One and James Hunt when I was growing up, but when they have a big car crash, and that's why Phil, this has been immediate. Everybody shut down their economy. This hasn't been a recession or a depression. It's been a car crash, and restaurants are closed. Everybody's done. Everything's stopped. So what they found with car crashes is if everybody got back in their car, fired up the engine, and tried to go full speed to get back in the race, in our case, the rat race, they burned out their tires, they blew out their engines, the drivers were overly stressed, and they have immediately more crashes. So they developed in both Formula One and NASCAR a thing called the Rolling Start. And you've seen this. They bring out a pace car. The pace car sets the pace, and they start up the engines. Everybody stays in their spot. They roll the engines up, they get them warmed up, and then little bit, they start going very slow. They move the tires to heat up the tires. They get the engine moving, they get the feel of the car. They go a little quicker. They keep kind of zigzagging from side to side. You've seen this. And they get going, they do a whole lap. They get used to the track. It's less stressful on the driver, less hard on the car. They get going, and then the pace car pulls out of the way, and they're going full speed. And that's what we want for everyone in the real estate business. One of these days, the pace flag is going to go down, and you better not be jumping in your car and firing up the engine at that time. You better not be watching news 24 hours a day, eating yourself into ding dongs and, donuts and, making homemade poutine. You better be figuring it out. So you want your engine up, you want it fired up, you want to warm it up, and you want a rolling start. And that's why I'm so impressed with what you guys have been doing here the last 6 weeks with these webinars, even in the midst of a shooting, even in the midst of this crisis. It's very important that you get the engine fired up. It's very important. And so what we're doing, it's called a 5-circle fit challenge. And it's spiritual, family, business, financial, and personal. And we're doing a whole bunch of things. We put together a bunch of free resources for folks. And we're going to launch this Friday. So any Royal LePage agent wants to join, we'd love to have you. It's for free. We have a fitness trainer doing little videos so you can get your body going. We have some business stuff to do. We have some things to do on your finances. And so you can go to buffiniandcompany.com/BC bonus. And
we will get this. We will get this out to everybody.
Great.
Thank you.
So I just think the big thing, as you know, you want this rolling start. Engines warmed up, tires are warmed up, mental acuity's back in. So the goal is to do 12 months worth of business in the next 9 months. That's the goal.
I like it.
And there is going to be a pent-up demand, Phil. You know that.
Yes.
There's pent-up demand. There was a housing shortage going into this. There's going to be a housing shortage coming out of this. And in prior recessions, real estate got hit early and got out late. In this recession, real estate is in late and is going to be out early. The restaurant business, not so much. And obviously employment and other issues are going to affect real estate, but there's still great pent-up demand. The rates are ridiculously low, and people are looking. People have been in their house, and here's what we know statistically. Lowe's and Home Depot just released a report. 37% of people surveyed plan on doing a home improvement project in the next 90 days. Why? Well, Phil, your bride is sitting there and going, Phil, this thing needs to be fixed, and you're walking around going, man, that sock drawer I've let go for months, and the caulk in the bathroom that I didn't do that I was supposed to do. You're staring at all the time. And this thing, people have found out their home is their castle. Some people have found out their home is their sandcastle, and they need to get, they should have moved. They should have got it done. They should have bought that vacation home. They should have bought the cottage. They should have moved, and they didn't. And now they're going, I'm going to do it now.
I did 2 electrical jobs on the weekend lived, by the way, that have been on the to-do list for 5 years. So felt good.
Well, it sounds good. I'm glad your electrical issues can last 5 years, Phil. That's good.
Well, it wasn't in my bathroom. Anyway, yeah, I hear you. So what are the best of breed people doing during this downtime? Because I'll tell you what we saw. Mm-hmm. We saw a really strong first quarter. We had some regulatory driven corrections in Canada over the last, call it full of 18 and the first half of 19. Right. But the second half of 19 and the first quarter of 20 were roaring. I mean, mm-hmm. they were breaking records. And then suddenly the middle of March came and like you said, it's like we hit that wall. Mm-hmm. And but the money kept flowing mm-hmm. Through April. And suddenly things are starting, spring is coming up here. The grass is green and the shoots are showing and people are itchy. And we saw some more activity, but what we won't see for a while is actual income. So there's going to be this gap between all the hard work over the last 5 weeks mm-hmm. and where they're actually going to see some results. So does the 5 circles, is that a tool that you could use during this time?
For sure, and we're addressing that. So for example, one of the big stars of finances down here is Dave Ramsey, and he's on 600 radio shows. And so we connected with the Ramsey organization. We brought in a guy named Chris Hogan, who's the Ramsey spokesman on TV and so on and so forth. So we just did a podcast with him as part of this. So they can go to the Brian Buffini show and listen to this Chris Hogan, and he gave some great tips on how to kind of take care of your home finances and a few things you can do right now to kind of shore things up. What we're seeing is you need to shore up your home and you need to invest in your business. You need to shore up at home and invest in your business. People have pent up demand. I don't know what it's like to be in Canada when there's no hockey during hockey season. I don't think it's pleasant. That's what I would say. And so just people are ready to kind of get going. So like I say, you need spiritual, the mind and the heart. You need to take care of your family. So we'll have somebody like, okay, pick one person a day that you haven't stayed in contact with in a long time. Let's go reach out, one a day. Okay. Your business, by the way, you train in peacetime so you don't bleed in war.
Right.
All the training programs that have been out there that people have gone, yeah, I'm going to get around to that. I'm going to get around to this. Now is the time. What else are you doing? There's only so many reruns of The Office you can watch, and so now is the time. And so now what's going to happen is, and we know this, and it's going to be dependent on the province and the city. And, things are different in Toronto and Vancouver than they are in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So we know this. And so there's this tremendous pressure in the States. What we're seeing is there's 29 states that haven't had there's 850 counties in the United States that haven't had a new case of COVID in 10 days. It's a third of the country. Well, that's different than New York City. So things are going to get opened up differently. And also people are going to be, it's like after a big storm, people are going to be kind of cagey. I don't know if you've gone to the store lately, but you're walking around. I got a mask on. I took a picture of my wife. As you know, my wife's African-American. She's got the glasses on. She's wearing a hoodie. She's got a mask on. I'm like, babe, 6 weeks ago, they'd have shot you here. What I mean? So
now people are nodding and saying, thank you, man.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah, right. Well done. Yeah. And so it's going to be a gradual thing. It's going to be a gradual thing. It can't be gradual for us. And so, we have to be reaching out. Now is the time to be talking to people. You can get a hold of people. I've had conversations with folks I haven't had in a long time. We're talking today, Phil. And, last time we were hanging out, we were in Ireland together, right? And
That's true. That's true.
But so I'm talking to people. I've had connections and conversations with people I haven't had in a long time. I'm normally flying here. I was supposed to go to Argentina the day of the lockdown, and I'd have been stuck in Argentina. And so I was literally at the airport, and I got a call, and I went, I'm going to hold off. I'd be still in Argentina,
Your spidey sense.
I might be a flamenco dancer. So
you would have had a new skill.
Yeah, that's true. See, but I think, look, everybody goes through the same dynamics. There's the initial hit. There's you start eating the comfort food. You stay up late. You're just around your jammies. And now it's like, hang on. I got to devote the self-discipline and get going. My kids are college athletes, and they had the nice time, and they ate whatever wanted. And now they're up. We're working out. We're working out with our fitness trainer via FaceTime. We set up the iPad, and it's time to get disciplined. It's time to get focused. It's time to warm up that engine, because the green flag is going to go. And what's going to happen is the whole market's not going to be ready to roar, but people will be ready to look at real estate. And I'm going to say this. We have people selling houses now. And there's ways to do this in a sanitary way. There's a way to do this in a professional way. And here's the thing. Somebody gets a transfer across the country, they're still selling their house. Someone wants to move, they're selling their house. Someone had a baby. I have a grandchild being born sometime in the next 5 to 6 days. You know what?
Congratulations.
Thank you. And here's the point. Babies are born, houses become too small. And that's so true. The point is that's still there. We're going to have the spring is going to happen in summer. Summer's going to be different. It's going to be an odd time. But I will say this. There are people, you said it, there are people who are not going to make it, and there's people who are. There are brokerages that are not going to make it, and there are brokerages who are. There's going to be a reshuffling of the decks here. And when this dust settles, you can be in a better position as a broker and a better position as an agent. Not that you wish anything bad for anybody else, but you just have to take care of business yourself. And what you'll see, the game's going to change and you can win.
Brian, I got a question that came in the Q&A that I think just what you're talking about right now is the perfect place to ask it. And that's coming from Matthew Hansberger, Royal LePage Atlantic in Halifax. And he's asking just about, you talked about, again, getting back in motion. Like, how does that happen? And, obviously, if you know Matthew with Royal LePage Atlantic, he's saying, what do you feel is the best way eventually when it happens for an office to reopen? So, we talked a little bit about the agents, but how about a brokerage itself?
You bet.
And then he also wanted to know when you're going to be running events again. So anyways, I think,
yes,
I think it's a great question right now.
Matthew, thanks for the question. I'll be running events as soon as they let us. We're in the People's Republic of California, and they may not be as open to doing events as some other states. So we may actually have to move. Look, San Diego Convention Center is the nicest convention center, #1 convention center in the United States. It's on the ocean. We do our mastermind summit there every year. Right now, it's a homeless shelter. It's this beautiful oceanfront property that holds Comic-Con. It's currently holding it's a homeless shelter. So these are unusual times. Matthew, I would say this, the key component, whether you're a broker or an agent, it's the same. It's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. So permit me for a second, I'll tell you a story that will pertain to what we're doing right now. When September 11th happened in New York, everything shut down. The whole world was in shock. And the Americans, who, by the way, had to park in Halifax, Matthew, and parked other planes coming from all over Europe, Americans were convinced there was more attacks coming. What we did was we mobilized our members to do this. Forget real estate. Forget talking about referrals. What we want you to do is, after about a couple of weeks, we want you to reach every single person in your database. Just be there for them. Just give them good energy. Just be the rock, not the river. Get away from the negative news and just give a word of encouragement. Let them know, is anything I can do for you? In that case, we could go see people too. And we just encourage people, forget real estate, just deposit in the emotional and human bank account. Now, that's all we did. There was about 60-day lag period. The following 90 days, in our 25-year history, we have never tracked more referrals per member than happened after that. People just appreciated someone being in their corner and so on and so forth. So if you're a broker right now, you need to be calling people one-on-one, and you need to be doing Zoom calls. And what we're having brokers doing more training than ever before. Here's what we're hearing. We launched that Pathway to Mastery course. More people are doing it now than ever before, and they're getting more engagement from the agents, because just like this, it's the Brady Bunch. I got Mike, I got Yvonne, I got Phil, and you can see everybody. There's more engagement than ever before. The whole world's working off of Zoom. So I think connect, interact, continue to be the leader, follow Phil's example. And I think that's a great thing. And I don't want to embarrass him, but I've been saying this for a long time. I think he's the last best leader in real estate. And so I do what he's doing. He's reaching out. He's doing webinars. He's doing connect. You can do this via Zoom. And I think over time, what's going to happen is there's going to have to be social distancing in place for an extended period of time. Offices are going to have to reflect that. But let's be honest, real estate offices were already practicing social distancing because people work from home and they don't come into the office the way they used to. And so It's not that radical a difference. But what it is now, you have people's attention. I was just telling Phil at the beginning of this, I've spoken to 1 million people via our podcasts and our Facebook Lives in the last 5 weeks. It took me 25 years to speak to 3 million people. And I've spoken to 1 million people in the last 5 weeks. You have people's attention, you can connect, you can interact. Now's the time to do it. And just like September 11th, if you deposit in people's emotional bank account right now, they will not forget you when the chance comes to do business.
Brian, we've talked a bit about this over the last 5 weeks, the difference between helping and selling, and that delicate line between generating business and reaching out and helping people. Could you describe in your mind the difference between the two, and when our folks will know it's time to move back into business generation?
Well, this will sound very Canadian, and I've been in the States 35 years, but you'll like this. We changed all of in fact, if the folks get the resources, we have a bunch of resources for free. We changed our marketing pieces and our mailing pieces and our email pieces. It used to be, oh, by the way, I'm never too busy for any of your referrals.
Right.
And now we've changed it to, oh, by the way, I'm never too busy to help. Call me with whatever you need. It's about helping. It's about serving. It's about giving. And give. I think in this case, here's what you need to do. You will know it's time to change based on the incoming calls you receive. And some people will be more ready for it than others. But you will know it's time to start shifting gears when the tone of the calls start to change. And by the way, we'll know it before CNBC knows it.
Right.
We'll know it before CNN knows it, because guess what? Their ratings are all up, and they're still enjoying freaking the heck out of people. But you're going to hear the change when people say, by the way, I thank you so much. Thank you for so much. I mean, let's be honest. We got on the call today, and I didn't know what it was going to be like to talk to some Canadians following a shooting.
Yeah.
And yet, here's the thing. You know what? On one hand, compassion, empathy, and our hearts go out to the folks from Port-au-Peak and Nova Scotia, and people are ready to talk about something different too. And so I think we'll know this, and we'll see this, and you'll hear it. We'll know it before the media does. Some people will start to call, hey, you know what? By the way, I've been, we were looking at this cottage. Hey, you know what? We've been here. We've been cooped up. We've decided, we want to get a smaller place. We want to move out of the city. You're going to start hearing the conversations change. Give, serve, and then listen to what they're saying.
Gotcha. So one of the things that I believe is going to happen, and I'll throw my thesis out there, and I'd love to get your opinion and what we might do about it. So we right now have very stable home prices in Canada because the number of listings have plummeted with the number of sales. Mm-hmm. And things are still in equilibrium. In fact, in a weird, odd way, it's a seller's market because we have more buyers that are out there than we have sellers, even though activity levels are down, because Canadians, good citizens all are doing, we haven't had any protests, by the way, saying we need to get back. We grumble, but we listen to our leaders and they say stay at home and we go, okay, the doc says stay at home, we stay at home. But I believe the buyers, and particularly first-time buyers who don't have a house to sell, so they don't have any risk of having anybody in their home, will really be back in this market. You know how expensive places like Vancouver and Toronto have been and how tough it's been for first-time home buyers. And the problem is when they come to market, they're coming and they're putting more imbalance in the market. So I think we're going to have just as you said, a rush of buyers in this market and a real dearth of listings. So how is our company supposed to help with that problem? We are the biggest company in the country. So if we can do something, maybe we can help the industry overall.
Great. I will pass this on. I did an interview with Dr. Lawrence Yun, and he's recognized one of the top 5 economists in the world. He just happens to be
very insightful guy.
He focused on the National Association of Realtors. And I would encourage folks to listen to this. In fact, I would encourage them to send this to their customers. And it was entitled, "This Too Shall Pass." And he gave great perspective, great data, great information. As we know, February was a record month. It's 50 days ago. It was 50 days ago. February was the strongest sales month in 13 years. Okay. It was 50 days ago, Phil. Like I said, this has been a car crash. It's NASCAR. We were going 200 miles an hour and we plowed into the wall. So I'm going to quote Dr. Yun on a couple of bases. He actually foresees this. He sees the entrance level for buyers, obviously some cooling off. There's been a lot of unemployment, right? And if you're a waiter or a waitress or work in the food industries, or some of the industries are going to be harder hit than others, it takes some of the steam out of first-time buyers. Now, we were in multiple offer situations. I mean, I'm sure you were hearing in certain hot markets, you get 20 and 30 offers. So guess what? There's going to be 3 or 4 now, which, by the way, I don't know about you, but I much prefer that type of real estate business. I do not like the 30 offers. I don't know what to do. The prices get out of whack and things get out of whack, and you sell a house and it can't appraise. So we're going to get, I'm going to give you a Canadian word. We're going to have a more stable market coming out of this.
We like that.
We do.
Goldilocks.
So on one hand, you have, well, there'll be less first-time buyers. Middle price. Lawrence Yun is actually forecasting, believe it or not, a slight increase in prices in the middle market through the end of the year. It's connected to what you're talking about. Now, I think you're going to see, again, more and more people. Once the dust settles here, people have made decisions about where they're living and what their home situation is more than any time in their life. And those decisions are going to play out over a period of time. So we are going to see bit by bit by bit more homes come on the market because people are like, I should have done this a year ago. I knew I wanted to do it. I'm done now. And so, for example, I'll put it to the States. People were moving out of New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and it's interesting. Middle income people were moving out of California, high net worth individuals moving in. They were moving to less tax states, warmer places.
Sure, like Nevada.
Or Arizona, Florida, Texas, Tennessee.
Okay.
What do you think's going to happen following this? It's only going to be an increase. If you lived in New York City and you're paying a fortune and you're in this spot and you thought, God, I'm paying too much taxes and the weather sucks and, there's rats on the streets and certain, whatever else. It's like, I'm going to Texas. I'm going to Florida. It's going to happen. So what this virus, I believe, is a magnifying glass that exposes things. If you had cracks in your marriage, well, when you're cooped up together for 12 weeks, you got more cracks. If you had cracks with your kids, more cracks. If you had cracks in your health, more cracks. Cracks in your finances, more cracks. Cracks in your business, more cracks. The fact is, when this thing plays itself out, we're going to see the middle markets grow. Where we'll see the high-end market effect is this. We had a pretty big sell-off in the stock market, and high-end homes are usually more connected to the stock market. Now, there's been a rebound, but so I think there'll be a little softening of prices at the top end, a little cooling at the top end, a stabilization at the entry level, and then over time, there is more and more homes going to come on the market. We'll actually see a slight price increase in the middle. I agree with that, and I think people are going to be shocked. Like I said, that NASCAR, we want to get the engine warmed up because one of these days the flag's going down.
Brian, I think there's one question I got that relates to what you were just talking about, and I think it's a good time to ask it. And this is coming from Louis out in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec. Now, Mont-Tremblant is one of the recreational ski areas about a little bit around an hour north of Montreal.
Yeah, call it 2 hours, and it'd be Four Seasons resort.
Yeah. So they've expanded, but and he's obviously, you're talking about the markets and all the rebound, and he's just wondering, obviously in his market, how do you see the secondary home market going? That's a tough question.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think what's going to happen is this. Number one, you're going to see, like, for example, one of the reasons, you're talking about, like, the Americans have actually done pretty well. I got to hand it to them, Phil. They, like I said, staying at home, people have done pretty well for the size of this country. One of the reasons people have gotten ticked off in like places like Michigan and stuff like that is the governor says you can't go to your second home.
Right.
That's really what set people off. And
yeah, you know what the challenge is? We've had a little bit of that in Canada. Like I've got friends in Calgary who love to go over the mountains into BC. They've got 3 ICU beds in this entire region, and the Calgarians are all flooding over the mountains into, and they just don't want them to get sick there.
So, and I understand that. And so in regards to what Louis is talking about, I think people even more so are in love with their second home than ever before.
True.
People love their cottage more than they ever did before. And so it'll be slower to start. So as we see this thing come back, what's going to happen is real estate's going to open up first. We can have social distancing and still show a house. We can have social distancing and still have a very sterile, antiseptic home to go through, a very clean home to go through. We can have protocols with masks, taking off your shoes and whatever. So we're going to go into this early, that we're going to come out early. What'll happen is the second home market will trail that. Will trail that. But here's the thing. People valued their home and their second home during this crisis more than anything else. You were sent at home. The order that came down worldwide, stay at home. And who are the people who make that happen? And so people right now are feeling, on one hand, they feel better about their real estate agent than they ever did. So make sure you reach out and talk to people. And they're also, every single one of them is thinking real estate. So make sure you reach out and talk to people. And
I've
the
got
second
it.
homes will do okay.
I've got a good thing. I remembered from one of the webinars I did years ago. I did a webinar with a realtor from Florida for the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing about 2 weeks after a hurricane.
Mhm.
And I was like, how's it going? She's like, hey, I just got internet back. And I was like, how's it been? And she said, I've been so busy, because what she did, she said, I have a lot of Canadians who can't come here. So what I do is I drive around, take pictures of their houses and send it to them. And if you want to make a deposit in the Bank of Emotional,
Mhm.
if you're up in Collingwood and Mont-Tremblant and you know you have clients in Montreal, go take pictures of their clients. Say, I'll go check it, because who knows if the roof is caved in from snow or something, right? It's a great time for you to do that.
Well, I'll just speak from this. My bride is not much of a spender, but she has been on the internet almost every night looking at homes in a community for a winter, a community for San Diego, from San Diego, for the last 5 weeks. And she never does this, and she's got it down by neighborhood. And so, because we've talked about this, because why? Our twins are going off to high school. We're going to be the empty nesters, yada, yada. We've been talking about this. It's gone into high gear. Let me tell you this. I know this. I will be heading to Scottsdale on a trip sometime in the next 4 to 5 weeks, because my bride's been watching Scottsdale real estate for the past 4 to 5 weeks. And I guarantee you, we're going to be heading. And if we can't fly, it's a 5-hour drive. We'll be heading in the van, and we're heading. So trust me. I mean, my wife is not a shopper like this, but this is what she's been doing every night.
Yeah.
So that ties into a quick question.
Mike, I'll just interrupt you there. Let me loop back and just remind people of something, Brian, because you talked about Dr. Yun and the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors and the prediction on home prices. Since we did our last national call last Monday, Roll Page did release our national forecast. I will mention that the other two major forecasters, Canadian Real Estate Association and CMHC, both pulled their forecast. And we thought that it was important for one of the three major valuation outfits in the country to move forward and give people a little bit of insight. So our forecast has an A or a B. A, it suggests if we come out of total lockdown, if we're easing back into business by the end of the second quarter, by the end of June, we expect home prices in Canada to rise by 1%. That's certainly down than our forecast last December for 2020, but it's still rising. It's protecting the home value of Canadian housing stock. If it stretches through the summer, which we really don't think it is, because we're starting to see the same as you, Brian, parts of the country are really making progress. But if it did, we see home prices falling 3%. This is not a catastrophe for home prices because it is a car crash. It's not a long, drawn out, painful recession, which we have no idea when it ends. This is weeks and months, not months and years. Anyway, I just thought I'd let everyone know online that's what we're seeing, and please look it up. Brian, back to you. So we're in market, and you're talking to a middle-aged couple, and they're a little worried about whether or not they should list their home and have strangers into the house. What are some of the things you can do to provide people with a feeling of comfort and trust in this area? Because as you mentioned, this isn't going to just be over and the track's clean and we're back to running at 200 miles an hour. You know, we're going to be in this social distancing, hyper vigilant state for months.
So 3 things that every agent needs to know. Number 1, how to get shoe covers. Number 2, masks, gloves, and hand sanitizer. And number 3, antiviral cleaners. You need to know someone who can come in and do an antiviral cleaning of a home. What we're doing and what we've seen is people are qualifying a showing much more so than normal. So here's now how we're seeing agents do business right now in the States. Number 1, they're showing, there's virtual open houses. They're doing showings online. The agent will make an appointment, put on the shoes, take off the shoes, whichever, gloves, mask, and take FaceTime and do a real life FaceTime with their client. So they're walking through the house and the clients go, oh, now open this and look here and look there. And we have a guideline on this free resource page of actually how to show a house, open the doors, open the cabinets, all that stuff. Here's the checklist to do. So you can have a checklist, and I'll make that available to all your folks. And now you're walking through FaceTime and you show the house and people go, okay. So we have people who are writing offers subject to seeing the home. We have a situation where you go, hey, first of all, you need to make sure. I actually, and this will be a warning, sometimes agents are clumsy. We think we know this. I was showing a house years ago. I'm married with 2 kids. I walk into this house and the seller goes, geez, I'm surprised you came. I was like, why is that? Oh, we have chicken pox. But I'm sure you had chicken pox. I call my mother on the way home, and my people wanted to buy the house. I call my mother, did I have chicken pox? I did not.
Oh, no.
I got chicken pox as a 35-year-old guy, and I almost died.
That is not good.
You know, people have different levels of sanitation. I'll be honest with you. The swine flu, I got the swine flu at the Toronto Board of Realtors. I was doing a meet and greet, and I was there. And, you know, swine flu was almost as deadly as this thing, but it didn't get the press. And this guy walks up to me, and he gives me a hug. Okay. I said, are you okay? You don't look too good. He goes, I haven't been feeling good. I got the swine flu. So the reason I bring this up, not everybody's idea of sanitation is the same.
That's true.
So you want to be very thorough with your inquiry. You want to ask the tough questions. Did anybody have COVID? Has anybody had COVID? Has anybody taken their temperature? Has anybody tested there? Then you go see the property. Then you bring the sanitation to the situation. And then you say to the buyer, we're going to give this place an antiviral cleaning. It is going to be perfect when you buy this home. It is going to be, there's people right now that are, and again, people are very innovative. They're steam cleaning the toilets, and they're doing this and that, and they're putting these, you know, antiseptic clean on the house and making it perfect. So there will be some new normals. There will be some things. You will show up like a bank robber to show a house.
Right.
And you're going to insist upon people being hygienic coming into a home, and it's okay. And look at what people have been willing to do for the love of America. I mean, you think about it. Think about how good people actually are, that there's not riots in the streets, that people actually are staying at home. People are actually wearing masks to a grocery store. People are being courteous. I mean, it's remarkable. And it's, believe it or not, even down south with those rough old Americans, they've been doing the same thing. And so I think people will do it. We're going to be doing this for a while. I will say this. I was thinking about it. I don't think you're ever going to sell a house again without being able to offer a deep clean into it.
I think you're bang on. It'll be one of the things that that'll be call it a hangover or you know what, frankly, a positive outcome of this whole thing. At a little bit of cost to the service we provide, but you know what? I never mind when the service levels we provide in this industry go up a little bit.
Sure.
Because with that come the barriers.
Yes.
Barriers are rising at the same time the costs are.
If I had told you in August of 2001 that every time you got on a plane, you'd go through a metal detector and take your shoes off, you'd have think I was insane.
Exactly.
So people are going to wash their hands like they never did before. People realize, oh, this is how I caught the flu, and I didn't realize that before. So there'll be some benefits that come out of it.
Now, wait, your top doctor, Dr. Fauci,
yes.
Fauci, he thinks that it may lead to the end of handshaking in Western culture. What do you think about that?
I don't know, Phil. We might all be doing that.
I've got to get my folks to stop kissing each other first, and then maybe we can get to the
right. Good luck in Quebec. That's all I got to say. But
exactly.
You know, we'll see. Look, you know, things settle down. Things do settle down, and there'll be a few things left over. You know, the podcast, This Too Shall Pass. It's gone to 250,000 people because this is going to pass. It's come to. It hasn't come to stay. The world is reviving. I just talked to the big CEO in Austria, and they're opening up their country May 1st. They have like all the Germans and the Austrians, they're the picture of efficiency. And we're going to all be watching how they're doing this and what services they're opening and the way they're doing it. They have a brilliant plan. I think the rest of the world will follow. This is going to be, but I just challenge people. I'm going to say this. You know, I was working out in my own home gym, and then I went and got my wife's trainer on Facebook, and I realized I've been wasting my time. Like I've been fooling myself. People think they're ready to go. This is very important, Phil. They're not. They're not. You've been sitting at home. You've been snacking and grazing around the clock. You've been watching way too much news. You're filling up with other stuff and other things. And here's the thing: you're not ready to go. You do need to warm up the tires. You do need to get the engine, but you need to get this going. You need to get the business going. You need to get this going. And bit by bit, we need to pick up the pace here. We need to start picking up the pace today. Today. Need to pick up the pace today. Be disciplined today. So when we hit the ground running, we're ready to roll.
That is awesome advice. Hey, Mike, do you have some audience questions for Brian?
We got a lot of questions, a lot more questions than we have time to answer. But there's one that has come up very regularly in our webinars. I think people are just trying to get different perspective. I've got it from a number of people. And I'll ask some of, so this is from Ann Alcock, one of our regional managers for Royal LePage Real Estate Services Limited. And it's just, she's saying some of her new agents just moved to the new area. They have very few contacts. They're asking what they can be doing to keep that and to get that, they were just trying to get things going. And that's come in from a whole bunch of people. So I think it's
great.
Yeah.
So what they need to be is connecting with where community influences are and where connections are. So for example, your local Chamber of Commerce has been doing mixers online. They need to be connecting with other agents in the Royal LePage network and be connecting and reaching out. They need to, everywhere there's a social opportunity to connect, they need to be reaching out and be part of it and connect with it. People are reaching out and doing this. Look at this. Look at what's going on right here. How many people do we have here today? Quite a few, I would imagine.
Four figures, lots and lots.
Sure.
Thousands of people.
Phil, how hard does it take to get 4 figures to show up at one of your conferences? Okay.
It's hard work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And so people are connecting. People can reach out. It is harder for newer people, but there are ways. Your local Chamber of Commerce, see who's connecting, see who the influences are, see who the social media influences are in your local community. See where you can be of service. For example, one of the things we're seeing here is food banks. People are in need. And so there's a way to serve, and there's a way to serve. It might be make a donation, but it's also, hey, go hand out food at the local food bank. Go connect. I would say this: when people are under pressure, the first thing that's natural is your head goes down. Your head goes down. You think that someone does something bad, the head hang dog, right? You need to get your head up, and you get your head off yourself and into service. And you need to be looking for opportunities to serve, looking for opportunities to give, and looking for opportunities to connect. Give. That's the season we're in. Give good energy, give good advice, give support, give physically if you can. And guess what? The law of the harvest. You got to give before you can receive.
That's great advice. Any other questions, Mike?
I can keep going. I got a lot of questions, but I got a good question.
Why don't we take another one, and then what do we have? 5 minutes, Amon?
10 minutes left. 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. Well, we'll take another question from the audience.
I'm picking, but one that came in that's really early that I thought was really good is it's from Doug Tunis, and he's just saying in Q4 2019 you presented your bold predictions for 2020, and in that you talked about telling agents to speak to their clients to separate market facts from feelings. And he said, how would your take be similar now?
Sure it is, and it's more extreme. Now we've had a chance. We just interviewed the head of housing and urban development, Dr. Ben Carson, and we're actually dealing directly with people in the White House on some metadata and some information. And to watch the press conferences come down, I'm looking at real-time reports. We're talking to actual people who serve in the cabinet. We have another 2 people coming up in interviews coming up in our podcast in the next 2 weeks. And I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at the information they serve. I'm looking at how it's presented, although whatever characters present it. And then I'm looking how the media interprets it. And it's shocking. So you need to know your facts. You need to, and not get swayed because there's such a politicizing of everything nowadays. And it's unfortunate that people can't even restrain themselves in an environment like this, that everything is politicized. So very important not to get brought over here or brought over there. I've said this: forget the outrage, time to get engaged. That's the number one thing. Forget the outrage, get engaged. The next thing is facts sell. Okay. That's the key. Facts sell. You need to know the data. You need to know that 50 days ago was one of the best real estate markets in history. You need to know that right now is one of the lowest interest rates we've had in 50 years. We need to know that unemployment was at record lows, and then it's gone through, in the States, it's 22 million of filed unemployment in the last 4 weeks. All of those jobs are not gone, and it's coming back. So you need to know your facts, and you need to be the rock, not the river. What people want to know, no matter how, let's say, politically interested you are and whatever else, there shouldn't be an ounce of politics in any of your communication, because here's why. That's not what they pay you for. That's not what they pay me for. My political opinions are my opinions. I have never and will never spout them, because it's none of my freaking business. I don't want to know my political views from Beyonce or some actor in Hollywood, and I sure as hell don't want a real estate trainer doing it, and I sure as hell don't want a realtor doing it. And I'm watching people. We post things. We're getting 150,000 people onto our Facebook Live every Friday. And there's people who are self-eliminating from our network right now because they get on. We brought on Ben Carson, not about some political thing. He's the head of the housing and urban development with some real-time information to share. But people hate politics, so here it was. Boom. Guess what? You're out of my database. Boom.
Banned.
Yeah, thank you for self-eliminating. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Next. It's an Ariana Grande song. So don't get caught up in that. Get caught up in the facts. Here's the thing. Most people want to be reassured. Most people want to have confidence in the future, and most people want a positive influence. So stay out of the weeds, stay the course, and just focus on serving people. If you focus on serving people, all that other stuff is nonsense, and it goes away very quickly. People need to be feel good right now. They need to know something's going to be solid, and the one thing they can count on is their home and the value of their home. I can't tell somebody what stock to buy right now. I can't tell them if the stock market's going to hold off. The stock market went down 30%. The value of a person's home did not. So we can be the one source of being solid that people have in their life right now.
You know what? We've been very proud of our political leaders who, by the way, do not get along during normal times. They have foes, have been colleagues. They have been baited by the media to try to say things about, premiers, about the prime minister, and they backed right off and said, I think the prime minister is doing a great job, and the prime minister is saying, I want to work with the premiers. This will start to change, and as we ease back to normal, people are going to get political again. And I think your advice is very, very good. We need to take the high road through this all. If you're in a community in Canada where it's a little slower than other provinces to open up, you have to take the high road because your clients will. And even if you want business opened up, we saw the owner of a small brokerage in Toronto send a sort of an open letter around on the weekend that was aggressive and basically saying you can't shut down the economy, whatever. He was universally panned in the industry and certainly by potential clients. So high road, great advice, Brian.
My advice would be write the letter, get it off your chest, send it to your mother. Okay? That's it. Send it to your mother and nobody else.
That's right. That's right. Hey, let me ask you a question. What's the COVID-19 equivalent of the famous Buffini pop pie?
Yeah, so what's happening is we have people doing pop pies right now virtually. So for example, we have people who are ordering little kits online and sending it to people. There's little resource packs, to protect themselves in their home. We also have people who you hear this, in Texas, 4,000 of our clients got together and they organized, they found out a giant list of all the people who were shut in, who were of a certain age and so on and so forth. And so what they did was they divvied up the lists. They bought care packages. They took photographs of here's what they did. They have the packages. I'm wearing the gloves. I got this, they got that. And they dropped it at people's doors, touchless, wiped off the packages, the whole thing. And then I took a picture and then sent a text to the homeowner. I'm just popping by. And so it made the national news. It made the national news because it was something positive, something good, something very caring. So you can do it You can send gift certificates. You can send packages through Amazon and other people like that. And then you can also do it yourself and take a picture that you're dressed up like a cat burglar and that you've got the gloves and the mask and it's all wiped off. And here you go.
That is great advice. And you know what? One of the things I found from this group of top agents I was talking to on Friday, things are loosening up. And with the online realtors, you can get masks now. You can get hand sanitizer. You can start to get the kinds of things that were in such short supply 5 weeks ago. Yep. And people will appreciate that sort of thing. It's become the new liquor.
Well, think about this. I have an 88-year-old dad and an 89-year-old mom living in a little house in Dublin. I can't even get on an airplane and go see him if something bad happened. My sister's in Northern Ireland with a sick husband, and she can't come down and see them. So there are people in my life and people in my community who are reaching out and taking care of my mom and dad. Let me tell you, I will never forget those people. I will never forget those people. And I'm the kind of guy that's a good guy to know when you need a favor. And so I'm better than Don Corleone. And so let me tell you, I will be taking care of some people in Ireland who are taking care of mine. I will never forget them for this time. And so we have a chance as a real estate community to make deposits in people's emotional bank account right now. By the way, a personal note is a very good thing right now. A call is a good thing right now. A pop-by is a good thing right now. And feeding your mind and putting good stuff in so you're positive, that's a good thing right now.
Well, you know what? This has been an amazing hour. Time with you is always so precious. You are a gem to our communities, our holistic community across the continent. I'm so grateful that you find time to speak to Canadians because we love you dearly, just like your adopted homeland.
Yes.
You're a fine man, and I can't wait to get out and swing a golf club again.
For sure.
Although I'm going to insist that I choose the teams this time because you whooped my butt last time. Anyway.
Well, and in closing, let me finish with this, Phil. Here, think about this. When the Great Recession happened in America in the 2007s and 8s, Roy LePage stood up for Buffini Company. And that was 12 years ago. And you've seen that we never forgot it. And that's the same thing that people have a chance to do now. We built a relationship with your organization and your fine agents and brokers. And we said, hey, and you said, hey, when things get good, the Buffinis are going to turn their Maserati lights south and we'll never hear from them again. But what I want to say to you is, by the way, my Maserati's in the parking lot and it won't start. It's in my garage. It won't start because it's been sitting there for 6 weeks, for the love of Mary. Bloody Italians. Anyway, the thing is, you guys made a deposit in our emotional bank account 12 years ago. Your brokers and your agents need to do the same now, and their clients will not forget 12 years from now who was there for them when the crap hit the fan.
What fabulous advice, and what a good note to turn things back to our moderators, Mike and Yvonne. But with my thanks, Brian. Thank you so
Phil.
much.
I really appreciate being on.
And a lot of thanks coming in. I mean, the chat has been nonstop this whole time, Brian, FYI. And also just to mention, we're actually streaming in 2 different places with 2 different audiences. When you talked about swinging, though, a lot of people have been asking about the sword behind you on the left. Is that just precautionary for if you decide that you can't?
Yeah, have you ever used it? They want to know, Brian.
They all want to know.
I'm named after a man named Brian Boru. And so now that you're home, go study who Brian Boru was and what he did to the Vikings. Yes. Everybody talks about the Vikings. No one ever talks about who kicked the Vikings' arse. His name was Brian Boru.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. Oh, good reminder. Thanks, Brian. That was fantastic session, guys, both of you. And Brian, really appreciate you getting an early. I know you're an early bird anyway, but you had to get up extra early this morning. So thank you for that.
Never too busy for my Canadian friends.
You're a gem.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all. Have a great day.
Everybody.
Stay safe, everybody.